Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Great to have you along. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Ed Brzychcy. Ed is an amazing person. He's a seasoned consultant, executive coach, and speaker, widely recognized for his expertise in organizational design, leadership development, and implementing scalable strategic solutions for middle market enterprises. And we're going to dive into that, how he does it, and the kinds of companies he helps. But firstly, Ed, thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, Ben, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on.
Yeah, good to have you. And for our listeners, whereabouts are you based?
I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Lovely, beautiful part of the world. I want to start with your business itself, and then I'd love to sort of get a little bit of background as to what led you into the formation of that. But yeah, tell us from the start what organizations you help and then the types of challenges that you help them resolve.
So my favorite types of clients that I work with are those middle market organizations that have hit that plateau. They've scaled in their markets, they've scaled in their industry, and they've hit that point where if we want to continue to grow, we need to grow internally. So coming in, helping them build out the organization, build out the lines of communication, areas of responsibility, so that they can continue to grow in a much more sustainable fashion.
Nice. Yep. And by middle market, is that by revenue or headcount?
By revenue. Middle market, post-entrepreneurial organizations. So as they kind of outgrow that early phase is where I like to come.
So do you work with the organization, with individual leaders within that in the coaching capacity? How do you structure your consulting work?
Very much client to client. It's pretty bespoke for everyone I work with. Majority is working with the C-suite and helping them to build out the organization, and then some executive coaching on what it takes to make that transition from a high growth organization into leading a more enterprise focused.
Yeah, fascinating. Early in my career, I started in a company that was the company wasn't in a great state. It was big, lots of profit and so on, but it was in dying industries, let's say, or just underperforming. And new CEO, new team in place. And wow, change, but good change. And it took on a whole new life. So I've seen personally the impact it can have just from a room full of people. It's amazing, right?
It really is. It's a lot of fun watching organizations. It's one of those where they just can't get out of their own way, but helping them to realize that that's the issue. And then, okay, how do we grow past that? Because we're here, we want to continue to build up, but it's sometimes you just outgrow yourself almost.
Yeah. And organizations at every different level or every different stage, there are different issues that crop up. So the small businesses have their startup, their teething issues, all that kind of stuff. But what are the kinds of main problems you see within that broad spectrum of communication and leadership?
The key things is we just start to see it gets stretched thin, where when you're early, you have a lot of people wearing a lot of different hats. It's easy to say we're all responsible for these different areas. And now when you start outgrowing that is where you start to see the redundancies, the overlap, the efficiency of, small, quick decision-making is suddenly taking a lot longer than it used to. And they're just not able to react as readily as they used to be.
And your work has a crossover, I suspect, between coaching and consulting. How do you define that? And how do you explain that for new organizations?
Well, certainly for the organization, it's taken an organization-wide focus, but working with, I very much believe in sort of the top-down efforts. So working with those executives to say, hey, here's where we want to go with the organization, and here are some of the changes that we need to make if we want to get there. And so generally at first, it's a little bit more consultative and helping them to understand root issues, long-term problems, better goal setting. And then from there, as we continue on the work, it turns much more into a coaching practice and helping them to adjust and stay on track.
You've had a fascinating career. What brought you to this place where you are now, the skills you've got, the kind of work you're doing? What led you to this point?
Oh, certainly. Very, very non-traditional. My ancient history, past life was within the military. And after coming out of the service, went back, got my education, and was like, I want to go into consulting. I got the MBA. I just don't want to go work for somebody else. And so I hung my shingle up on the wall, started asking organizations.
Straight away.
Hey, I trained, led, and developed people for 12 years. And in 10 years, what started out as a lot of just management focus, a lot of leadership development, has grown into a much more strategic focused consultancy, which has been a lot of fun watching that change and watching those trends.
That's really interesting. So for people who don't necessarily come from a pure, let's call it HR in this instance, an HR background to then go into HR consulting, maybe they're an engineering manager in a past life, as you say, or even leading people. What's your advice to them? Because it's a big hurdle in their mind, I suspect.
It's a big hurdle in the mind for me. A lot of it was just translation of understanding, okay, here's the skill sets that I developed over time. Here's how I've worked with people. Of course, military is, there's no push-ups in business. People are people. And so understanding and going a little bit deeper onto, for me, a lot of it has been the organizational behavior studies, a lot of applied psychology and understanding, here's where I came from, here's what I was actually doing, and here's how we can implement that in organizations. Just a lot of tying those threads together.
And then across your career, what have you learned about leadership so that you can then apply it to the work you're doing for your clients?
Tons. For me, a lot of it is being willing to be the change maker. Isn't so much being at the front of the change, it's espousing the change and really taking it to heart and saying, here's what we want to do, and being the exemplar of showcasing, here's the new way operating, here's the way we're going forward, and here's why. Turns into very much of an internal process. And the more that people can internalize it, the more people can adopt it, then the more everyone else is going to see that positive pressure coming from in order to make that change happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you've been having a lot of interesting conversations with leaders, and you're sort of trying to collate that into some, I don't know, form that you can share with people. Can you tell me a bit about those discussions? What are you talking about, and how do you plan to share that with people?
Certainly. So a little while ago, I was looking around and I was like, you know what? I'm working with a lot of organizations that need the help. What about the organizations that don't need me? And so about almost 2 years ago now, I started reaching out to those high growth organizations that were leading their verticals. And my first inquiry was, let's talk about the culture of your organization, what cultural artifacts, what pieces of your organization has actually gotten you to that point. And as I started talking with all these various CEOs and everybody, it was not so much those artifacts were so unique and different for every one of them. That was absolutely their own little piece, their own little competitive advantage, just can't be replicated because it's them. And it's them because it's the way those leaders have grown, the way those leaders have developed. What I found though was when you look at high growth, high impact leaders, they do go through a couple key stages. Generally, there's an inciting incident or a crucible at first. They've developed their skills as a leader, learning how to develop other leaders, which was usually the hardest part for them. And then the last, as they reach more senior in their careers or they're looking for those next steps, is how do I leave behind the legacy? And working through those 4 stages, I saw there's just sort of little commonalities between the way that they all went. This has morphed into an ongoing, what I call my HR roadshow here across the US, and is now a little bit of an ebook that I've put together sort of with some of the ideas and best practices on how to help build and grow and almost support these leaders as they go through these different phases.
Wow. I don't know why, but I got an image of that series 7 Up or whatever, where they keep interviewing people after every 7 years. Maybe you could be doing that with these leaders.
Yeah, we are kicking off round 2 now. So I'm starting to go out for the next round of interviews that I hope to conduct from in Q4. So very much looking forward to keeping those conversations going because they've been utterly fascinating.
Yeah, that would be. Any surprises or things you weren't expecting?
The big surprise was phase 3, was learning how to build other leaders, especially for the ones that were very entrepreneurial, that built their own organizations, letting go of the reins, letting them experience the hardship and a little bit of that challenging decision-making. You could see on so many of their faces just how much it strained them and how big of a learning curve that was. It was really difficult to learn to let go and challenge others, or allow others to be challenged rather.
And then if I look at how you're growing your own business itself, like it's one thing to say that I help middle market companies, but how do you actually get in to find the ones that need your help?
A lot of referrals. Most of my work is done on a referral basis from one client to the next. For me, my outreach, like I do a lot of direct outreach for the research and what have you, and that often leads to other conversations, which people are interested in, like, hey, no, we had a great conversation. Maybe you can help some of my team. So it's been a fantastic sort of go around journey, a lot of just direct getting to people, having great conversations. And for me, it's, business is all about relationships. So the more that I can work with people, get to know them, then we just sort of build that bond that naturally transitions to me finding ways to help them out.
Nice. And for someone listening to this and they're thinking, I would like to get more referrals or to make it a bit more steady, predictable, what would your advice to them be? How would they make that happen?
It's all about communication. Once you get people like in your network, maintaining contact, and it's the small things. It really is. It's that little message on the birthday. It's the holiday notes that go out. It's those things that just show, hey, I'm still listening. I care. Celebrating milestones if they make any changes. That's what I found just to be the most effective to sort of keeping people collegial and just
Yeah.
having a good relationship within your network and within the job within the industry.
Yeah. Some people might think, oh, wow, he's lucky. And then I'm also thinking on the other side, well, you're making your own luck there. And you make it sound simple, but there's a bit of proactiveness, or if that's the word, and just taking action and just being active about it. Is that right?
Well, certainly. I mean, luck is just being in the right place at the right time. And the more you make sure you're in various places at various times, the more eventually, by the law of averages, you'll be one of those will be the right place at the right time. So it's all about persistence. It's sort of when you back off and stop engaging, that's when you miss the opportunities.
Great advice. With the referrals, do you formally ask, hey, do you know of anyone, or do you just let it come to you? How do you handle that specific aspect?
It's mixed. It depends on the relationship. For people I've worked with that I know might have some context or seem like through our conversations where it comes up more naturally, absolutely. It's very rarely a hard ask.
Yeah. And then the other thing you mentioned was doing the interviews and so on. And that's one of the reasons why I love starting or running podcasts. It's a great way to have conversations with people. And so for people listening to this, if you think you want to connect with people, either podcast or research, it can be a wonderful way to connect with people. And then they can either maybe get you some referrals, can get you direct new work from that. That's been your experience, has it, Ed?
These are just nice little feathers to have in the hat, little great conversations to have, and just additional people to, have conversations with and reach and, hear your story.
Yeah, yeah. And what's the Forbes Council or Forbes Coaching? I forget the actual title.
Or the Forbes Coaches Council is an invite network of thought leaders where we, ascribe and share our ideas. We have a little corner of the Forbes platform for ourselves, and it's great for us to put out some additional articles. And they do quite a bit of just panel articles. So I think I've hit almost 20 this year that I've been on different panels through them, sharing little tidbits of information around business and HR and people.
And do you find that's useful from a business branding growth perspective?
Definitely. From a branding and growth perspective, it's been great. It's also just nice to be in the room with other like-minded experts because you start to share ideas, you share business. We have our own little forums on the back end where we can share ideas around everything from, hey, our latest book release. Oh, I'm looking at starting a podcast or want to be on more podcasts, or even how do we integrate AI, or how do we see our clients integrating AI and what are we doing about it? So it's a nice way just to keep those professional level conversations, keep us sharp.
But I suspect that you would never have been invited in the first place to participate in that council, which sounds like a really powerful networking group and support group. But had you not been proactive and doing these little small things, but just keep doing them, keep putting your name out there or being in the right place at the right time, that opportunity would not have opened up. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's, being through there and just being consistent online has absolutely helped build some of those bridges. It's nice because with the council, I'm now talking with various publishers and looking actually, as I take all of this great information about leadership and cultural development, we're looking at actually forming into something longer and getting a good book out there.
So cool. And did I see you did a TED talk or a presentation of that site?
I did TEDx Babson earlier this year. So
how was that?
Oh, fantastic. It's just so much fun being with those events on that stage and just sharing, cool ideas and great things.
Yeah. And then you're an alumni of that group, if you like, and you've got that sort of network.
Absolutely. It's a great network to be a part of. It's actually, I'm already an alumni of Babson College. So it's just kind of compounding how awesome that school's been for me.
Fantastic. Just to wrap it up, in terms of ideal clients, if people are listening to this thinking, oh, wow, we need help in our company, or if I know of a firm, I don't do these sort of services that Ed does, just remind everyone of the ideal clients.
The ideal clients for me are those organizations that have plateaued. They've been growing and now all of a sudden their market's a little bit saturated or they're looking for that next opportunity and they realize just the internal workings aren't there for us to grow effectively and efficiently.
Okay, good to know. And then your report or ebook, you've got a previous edition, you've got another one coming out, is that right?
We've got the ebook out and we're looking at a longer form, but the ebook is on my website at leadfromthefront.net, and it's just a free download. Come and check it out.
Excellent. So leadfromthefront.net, check the show notes. We'll have the links there for you. Any final advice for people listening to this who are running a workplace HR related business in terms of marketing and growth? What's your advice on how they could continue to grow their business, keep it vital?
It's persistence. It's all about the persistence. I think you make your own luck in that regard. And the more you can build your network, the more you can reach out and be in contact with people, the better. Business is fundamentally a people industry, no matter where you're at. So,
Well, Ed, you're doing great work, but also you're doing it for C-suites of large organizations. So that means you're having a large flow-on effect, I bet. So I suspect you're changing workplaces for the better. So I thank you for that. And I just encourage you to keep going. And thank you very much for sharing your insights today.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate the opportunity to.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks, and see you next time.